Chapter 1, just another Monday. 7:02 a.m. Beep. Beep, beep. A hand emerged from beneath a blanket and blindly smacked the alarm clock. Silence. 5 more minutes. A second later, the alarm resumed. Beep, beep, beep. Fine. Ethan slowly sat up, rubbing his messy black hair. Monday. The worst invention in human history. His one-bedroom apartment wasn't anything special. A small kitchen, a couch that had definitely seen better days, a television sitting on a cheap entertainment stand, a drying rack with yesterday's laundry still hanging from it. It looked normal, comfortably normal. Ethan yawned and shuffled into the bathroom. Looking into the mirror, he paused. I look pretty good today. He leaned closer. Actually, did I always have gray eyes? For some reason, he couldn't remember. Guess I'm still half asleep. He shrugged it off. After brushing his teeth, he wandered into the kitchen and instinctively opened a cabinet. Coffee, exactly where he expected it to be. He didn't remember buying this brand. Still, he brewed himself a cup anyway. His phone vibrated. He picked it up while taking his first sip, almost immediately. He spat the coffee back into the sink. Ashcroft International. Displayed across his lock screen was a work notification. Reminder. Report to Ashcroft International Headquarters by 8:30 a.m. Assigned Department. General Affairs Division. General Affairs. He frowned. I don't work for. His voice slowly trailed off. Do I? An uncomfortable pressure settled inside his head. Random images flashed through his mind. A printer, an office, stacks of paperwork, a delivery cart, a parking garage, an employee cafeteria. The memories disappeared as quickly as they had come. What was that? His head hurt for only a second before returning to normal. Maybe I really need a vacation. He unlocked his phone. The wallpaper wasn't familiar. Neither were half the apps. Company Messenger, Employee Portal, Meeting Scheduler, Staff Directory. Without thinking, he tapped Employee Portal. A profile opened. Ashcroft International. Employee name. Ethan Vale. Department. General Affairs. Position. Administrative Support Staff. Employee rank. Level 1. Is okay. This prank has gone way too far. He looked around the apartment again. Everything suddenly felt too real. He pinched his arm. Ow. That actually hurt. By 8:05, Ethan had convinced himself there were only 3 possibilities. 1, he was dreaming. 2, he had somehow lost his memory. 3, he had finally worked himself insane. None sounded particularly comforting. Guess I'll just go to work. If nothing else, someone there should know what was happening. The morning commute felt strangely natural, almost automatic. Without checking GPS once, he knew exactly which subway line to take, which exit to use, which convenience store sold decent coffee, where to stand on the platform. Why do I know all this? He didn't have an answer. 25 minutes later, he stood before one of the tallest skyscrapers in the city. Sunlight reflected off its glass exterior. Large silver letters stretched across the entrance. Ashcroft International. Employees poured through the revolving doors carrying briefcases and laptops. Luxury cars pulled into the underground parking entrance. News cameras waited outside. A financial reporter spoke excitedly into a microphone. Ashcroft International is expected to announce another major acquisition later this week. Ethan stared upward. This company is huge. He followed the crowd inside. The lobby looked more like a 5-star hotel than an office building. Marble floors, modern art, a massive digital display showing stock prices. Security gates scanned employee badges. Without thinking, he reached into his pocket. There it was, an employee at his photo. His name, Ethan Vale, General Affairs Division. Guess I'm really employed here. The security gate chimed. Good morning, Mr. Vale. As morning. The words left his mouth automatically. His body somehow knew exactly where to go. The General Affairs office occupied the 12th floor. Unlike the luxurious executive levels, this floor was noisy. Phones rang nonstop. Printers hummed. Someone argued with a copier. Another employee hurried past carrying 6 boxes of printer paper. A middle-aged supervisor spotted Ethan. There you are. Without waiting for an answer, he shoved a thick stack of folders into Ethan's arms. The executive office needs these upstairs. Take them immediately. And don't forget the coffee. And coffee. The chairwoman's assistant already ordered it. Move. Chapter 2, The Chairwoman's Coffee. The executive floor was eerily quiet. Unlike the bustling General Affairs department downstairs, every employee here walked with measured confidence. Conversations were soft, footsteps were light, and even the ringing of a phone seemed restrained. Ethan glanced down at the coffee tray in his hands. 1 latte, 1 Americano, 1 cappuccino. How can coffee cost almost $40? Rich people are terrifying. He followed the signs until he reached a reception desk. A young woman wearing a navy business suit looked up from her computer. Oh, General Affairs. Ethan smiled politely. Morning, I have the documents and coffee for the executive office. The receptionist nodded. 1 moment. She pressed a button. Miss Lynn, General Affairs is here. A few seconds later, the office door opened. A beautiful woman in her early 30s stepped out. She wore silver-rimmed glasses and carried herself with quiet professionalism. Ethan. He blinked. Yes. Follow me. She turned around without another word. Ethan hurried after her. She knows my name. Maybe General Affairs sends me up here a lot. The executive office was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Several assistants worked quietly behind sleek desks. No one spoke unless necessary. Miss Lynn stopped outside a pair of large walnut doors. The chairwoman is inside. Take the coffee in. And don't spill it. Ethan looked at the expensive carpet. With my luck, if I spill this, they'll probably deduct it from my salary. Miss Lynn knocked. Chairwoman. The coffee has arrived. A calm voice answered from inside. Come in. Ethan pushed open the door. The office was larger than his entire apartment. Modern, elegant, minimalistic. Bookshelves lined one wall. A massive painting overlooked the room. Behind an equally massive desk sat a woman reviewing financial reports, Victoria Ashcroft. Even without makeup meant for the camera, she possessed an effortless elegance. Her chestnut hair rested neatly over one shoulder. She wore a cream-colored blouse beneath a charcoal blazer, her posture straight despite the mountain of paperwork before her. She didn't look intimidating because she was loud. She looked intimidating because she was calm. The type of person who could end someone's career with a single sentence, without realizing it. Ethan slowed his steps. So that's Victoria Ashcroft? Wow. Victoria continued reading. No wonder she was called the Iron Rose. Her pen paused. She really doesn't look like she's in her 40s. Victoria's emerald eyes slowly lifted. Honestly, if someone told me she was Evelyn's older sister, I'd probably believe them. Silence. Ethan blinked. Had he said something? No. His mouth hadn't moved. He placed the coffee carefully on the desk. Your coffee, chairwoman. Victoria looked at him, then at the coffee, then back at him. Thank you. You're welcome. Ethan took a small step backward. Mission accomplished. Now quietly disappear before someone gives you more work. Victoria's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around the pen in her hand. Disappear? That voice again. Clear, distinct, as though someone had said quietly directly beside her. Yet the young employee standing before her hadn't spoken a single word. Had she imagined it? Ethan. He stopped. Yes, chairwoman. How long have you worked here? Ethan thought for a moment. I believe, almost 2 years. Or at least, that's what my memories are telling me. Victoria's eyes narrowed ever so slightly. Memories? What memories? Before she could ask another question, a knock interrupted them. Come in. The office door opened. Miss Lynn stepped inside. Chairwoman. Miss Evelyn has arrived. Victoria nodded. Send her in. Yes. Ethan immediately straightened. The Ice Queen. Right. She's probably here to discuss another multi-billion-dollar acquisition while I'm wondering if instant noodles are on sale. Victoria heard every word. Ice Queen. Before she had time to process that strange nickname, the office door opened once more. A tall woman entered wearing a perfectly tailored black business suit, long raven black hair, sharp sapphire eyes. Her expression remained cool as she carried a tablet under one arm. She barely glanced at Ethan. Mother. Victoria looked toward her daughter, Evelyn. For just a moment, neither woman spoke, because the instant Evelyn crossed the doorway, she heard it too. Wow, she's even prettier than the illustrations. Evelyn remained expressionless. Absolutely stunning. A brief pause, unfortunately. She looks like she'd reject a vacation request through sheer eye contact. Evelyn slowly turned her gaze toward Ethan. He stiffened. Oh, did I accidentally stand in her favorite spot? For the first time in years, a tiny crack appeared in Evelyn Ashcroft's perfectly composed expression, not because of what Ethan had said, but because she had heard everything he hadn't. ===. Chapter 3, The Ice Queen. Ethan stood there awkwardly. The office had suddenly become unbearably quiet. Victoria looked at Evelyn. Evelyn looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at the floor. Should I leave? I should probably leave. This looks like one of those rich people conversations where they discuss billion-dollar mergers. Meanwhile, I'm wondering whether instant noodles are on sale this week. Victoria lowered her coffee cup. You may go. Ethan visibly relaxed. Thank you, Chairwoman. He gave a respectful nod before leaving the office. The moment the door closed, silence returned. Evelyn looked at her mother. You heard it too. It wasn't a question. Victoria nodded slowly. I did. The room fell quiet again. Evelyn frowned. He never opened his mouth. No. But I heard every word. So did I. Neither woman believed in ghosts. Neither believed in psychic powers. Yet both had clearly heard Ethan's thoughts. After a long silence, Victoria calmly took another sip of coffee. Don't mention this to anyone. I wasn't planning to. Observe him. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You think he's dangerous? Victoria looked toward the closed office door. I don't know. He appears perfectly ordinary. Which makes this unsettling. Meanwhile, Ethan had already forgotten about the strange atmosphere. He happily stepped into the elevator. Nice. No extra work. Maybe today won't be so bad after all. The elevator reached the 12th floor. The moment he stepped out. Ethan. His supervisor waved him over. I need you to deliver these contracts to legal. And after that, IT. Then marketing. Ethan looked at the stack. Did a tree die for this? What? Nothing. He picked up the files. Background characters work surprisingly hard. By lunchtime, Ethan had walked nearly 8 kilometers through the headquarters. Legal, finance, marketing, human resources, executive archives. He had become intimately familiar with every elevator in the building. I'm basically a premium delivery service. His stomach growled, please, just let me eat lunch. The company cafeteria was packed. Employees chatted while eating. Some discussed projects. Others complained about clients. Ethan grabbed the cheapest lunch set available. He looked around. No seats. Just as he sighed, someone waved. Ethan. A cheerful young man with glasses smiled. Over here. Ethan walked over. Thanks. His coworker grinned. You've been running around all morning. The executive office. Yeah. Ouch. The man shook his head dramatically. I'd rather work overtime than deal with Miss Evelyn. Ethan laughed. I only saw her for like 10 seconds. So. He leaned in slightly. Honestly, she wasn't as scary as everyone says, just intimidating, like one of those beautiful snow mountains. Looks amazing, but you'd definitely freeze to death if you got too close. His coworker blinked. What? You zoned out. Did I? Weird. 36 floors above, Evelyn was reviewing acquisition proposals. She suddenly stopped reading. Beautiful. Snow Mountain. Her assistant looked up. Miss Evelyn. And nothing. She returned to her tablet. A few seconds later, freeze to death. Another page remained unread. Her assistant hesitated. Is something wrong? Continue. Yes, Miss Evelyn. Evelyn stared at the financial report. She hadn't been anywhere near Ethan. Yet, she had heard him again, perfectly clearly, at the same time. Victoria sat in another meeting. Executives argued over investment strategies. Chairwoman. We recommend delaying. A familiar voice suddenly echoed inside her mind. This fish is surprisingly good. Victoria paused. Maybe I'll get seconds. An executive cleared his throat. Chairwoman. She blinked. Continue. Her normally composed expression remained unchanged. Inside, she was anything but calm. She had just heard Ethan complimenting cafeteria fish from 36 floors away. Back in the cafeteria, Ethan happily finished eating. Good meal, now back to being invisible. He smiled to himself. A quiet, ordinary office life. That was all he wanted. He had no idea that every casual thought he had was steadily becoming the most interesting part of two powerful women's day. And for reasons neither of them could explain, they were already beginning to wonder, what would Ethan think next? Chapter 4, The Mysterious Employee. Monday, 2:17 p.m. The afternoon rush had begun. Ethan. Coming. No sooner had he returned to general affairs than another stack of documents landed in his arms. Contracts to legal. These invoices to accounting. And marketing needs 20 copies of this presentation. His supervisor looked at him. Why are you standing there? I'm appreciating the confidence you have in me. And moved. And yes, sir. Ethan sighed dramatically as he walked away. One day, I'm going to become rich. Then I'll hire someone to deliver documents for me. Meanwhile, 36 floors above, Victoria Ashcroft was finishing another board meeting. A middle-aged executive proudly presented his proposal. Our overseas expansion should increase profits by. I wonder if the cafeteria still has pudding. The executive stopped speaking. Chairwoman. Victoria looked up. Continue. Why, yes. She calmly rested her chin on one hand. Inside, she was beginning to question her own sanity. Every hour or so, that employee's thought simply appeared, without warning, without reason, at almost the exact same moment. Evelyn was reviewing quarterly reports. The printer on 12 is going to jam again? Her pen stopped. 3 seconds later, the intercom buzzed. Miss Evelyn. The printer on the 12th floor isn't working. Call IT. Already did. She slowly lowered the report. Coincidence? Perhaps. General Affairs Department. Seriously. Ethan stared at the smoking printer. I literally thought this thing looked ready to explode. A coworker laughed. You jinxed it. I don't have that kind of luck. Actually, with my luck it'd explode after I fixed it. He quietly stepped away. 5 seconds later. Bang! The printer gave one final heroic effort before coughing out a cloud of toner. Everyone jumped. Ethan slowly looked at the ceiling. I knew it. 5 minutes later, his supervisor waved him over again. Ethan. Yes. The executive office needs these files. Ethan looked at the folder, then looked at his supervisor. Again. They requested you. And me. That's what they said. Ethan scratched his head. Weird. Did I accidentally become the designated delivery guy? Executive floor. Miss Lynn smiled politely as Ethan approached. Good afternoon. Afternoon. The chairwoman is currently busy. Please wait. Ethan nodded. No problem. He quietly stood beside the reception area. With nothing to do, his eyes wandered. The reception area was beautifully decorated. Fresh flowers, modern paintings, comfortable leather chairs. Then, his eyes drifted toward the office. The slightly open door offered a brief glimpse inside. Victoria Ashcroft stood beside the window while speaking on the phone, even from a distance. She carried herself with effortless grace. Her tailored cream-colored suit complemented her composed demeanor, and every movement reflected years of confidence and authority. Ethan quickly looked away. Dangerous. Very dangerous. Beautiful women in positions of power are hazardous to a man's blood pressure. No wonder those CEOs in the novel kept losing negotiations. I'd probably sign the contract without reading it. Inside the office, Victoria paused mid-sentence. Yes. We'll discuss the acquisition tomorrow. She ended the call. For some reason, the corner of her mouth moved. Barely, outside, Ethan remained blissfully unaware. Focus, that's your boss. Admire respectfully and continue earning your paycheck. The elevator chimed. Another woman stepped onto the executive floor. Tall, elegant, dressed in a fitted black business suit that reflected her immaculate standards. Her long raven-black hair rested neatly over one shoulder. Evelyn Ashcroft. Employees immediately greeted her. "Good afternoon, Miss Evelyn." She acknowledged them with a small nod. Then, she noticed Ethan. He noticed her too. "Oh, Ice Queen incoming." Evelyn's eyebrow twitched almost imperceptibly. Professional, confident, absolutely gorgeous. A tiny pause. "Still looks like she'd reject my vacation request before I even submitted it." Evelyn walked past him without slowing. "Good afternoon." Ethan immediately straightened. "Good afternoon, Miss Evelyn." She gave a slight nod before entering her office. The reception area became quiet once more. Ethan let out the breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "See? Professional interaction. Nobody got fired. Today is going great." Behind the closed office door, Evelyn stood motionless. "Miss Evelyn." Her assistant looked confused. "Are you all right?" Evelyn glanced toward the wall separating her office from the reception area. "Why? Does he keep calling me the Ice Queen?" Her assistant blinked. "Pardon." "And nothing." She opened the first report, but instead of reading it, her thoughts drifted back to the ordinary employee downstairs, an employee who looked at her with complete respect, yet whose inner voice was unlike anyone she had ever met. Completely honest, completely unfiltered, and somehow, far more interesting than any executive in the building. Chapter 5, An Unusual Assignment. 3:42 p.m. Ethan. He had barely returned to general affairs before his supervisor called him over again. Without even looking up from his computer, the man slid another folder across the desk. Executive Office. Ethan stared at the folder, then at his supervisor, then back at the folder. Did I accidentally become an executive floor Pokémon? What? And nothing. His supervisor adjusted his glasses. The chairwoman's office specifically requested someone from General Affairs who knows the building well. And that someone was me. Stop complaining and go. And yes, sir. As Ethan picked up the folder, he sighed inwardly. This better not make me work overtime. The executive floor was as quiet as ever. Miss Lynn looked up from the reception desk and smiled politely. "Ethan." "Miss Lynn." "The chairwoman is finishing a meeting. Please wait a moment." "No problem." Ethan stood near the reception area, absent-mindedly admiring the expensive decor. One vase here probably costs more than my monthly rent. Rich people really do live on another planet. A few minutes later, the office doors opened. Several executives walked out looking exhausted. One of them loosened his tie as if he had survived a battlefield. Ethan blinked. Did they negotiate? Or get interrogated? The executives hurried away. Then, Victoria Ashcroft stepped out. She had removed her blazer, leaving her in a fitted ivory blouse with the sleeves neatly rolled to her forearms. Her composed expression hadn't changed in the slightest despite what must have been a 3-hour meeting. Ethan lowered his head respectfully. "Good afternoon, Chairwoman." Seriously, how does someone finish a marathon meeting and still look like she belongs in a luxury magazine? Victoria's footsteps slowed almost imperceptibly. "That blouse probably costs more than my laptop." A tiny pause, worth every dollar. Ethan immediately scolded himself. "Stop looking, you idiot. She's your boss. Keep your job." Victoria kept her expression perfectly calm. Inside, however, she wasn't sure whether to be amused or annoyed. This employee was incapable of keeping a single thought inside his own head. "And Ethan." "Yes, Chairwoman." "I have a document that needs to be delivered to Miss Evelyn." "Yes, Chairwoman." She handed him a sealed folder. "The contents are confidential." "I understand." "Confidential? Translation, don't accidentally leave it in the photocopier." Victoria almost sighed. He really did think about the strangest things. The CEO's office occupied the opposite end of the executive floor. Ethan knocked. "Come in." He stepped inside. Unlike Victoria's office, Evelyn's felt colder. Everything was perfectly organized. Minimal decorations. Shelves lined with business books. Not a single item seemed out of place. Evelyn sat behind her desk reviewing a financial report. She didn't even look up immediately. "Yes. I have documents from the chairwoman." "Leave them there." Ethan placed the folder on her desk. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a framed photograph. Victoria, Evelyn, and a younger blonde woman with a bright smile. That must be Sophia. She looks completely different from the serious atmosphere in here. Evelyn finally raised her head. Is there something else? No, Miss Evelyn. Man, even asking if there's something else sounds intimidating. If she smiled once in a while, she'd probably cause traffic accidents. Evelyn's pen stopped moving. Actually, maybe it's better she doesn't smile. I'd probably forget my own name. A brief silence followed. Ethan blinked. Why is she looking at me? Did I put the folder upside down? You may go. Yes, Miss Evelyn. He bowed slightly and left. The office door clicked shut. For several seconds, Evelyn continued staring at it. Her assistant entered moments later. Miss Evelyn. Yes. Should I schedule tomorrow's meeting? Do that. Is something bothering you? Evelyn looked toward the closed door again. No. But that wasn't true. She had spent years surrounded by polished executives. Every word they spoke was calculated. Every compliment had an agenda. Every smile concealed a motive. Then there was Ethan, an ordinary employee who outwardly treated her with perfect professionalism, while privately thinking things like, she'd probably cause traffic accidents if she smiled. Ridiculous, disrespectful, oddly sincere, and somehow, it was the most honest compliment she'd received in a very long time. Equals.